The brain that changes itself. When I reached this point in my research, I could no longer see the brain as something fragile and limited. I began to see it as something brave, something that wants to survive. Because again and again, I met people whose brains refused to give up. One of the most powerful lessons came from children. With learning difficulties. Many of them were told early in life,
"You're slow."
You're not good at school.
"You'll always struggle."
Those words hurt more than any diagnosis. Because the brain listens. When a child hears, "I can't learn," their brain begins to believe it. I met a boy named Leo. He was intelligent, curious, and deeply ashamed. Reading felt impossible to him. Letters jumped on the page. Sounds blurred together. Teachers thought he wasn't trying. But his problem was not effort. It was wiring. Certain brain circuits for sound and vision were weak. So instead of giving him more pressure, scientists gave him something different. Training. Simple games. Careful exercises. Repeated sounds. Slow reading. Day after day. His brain was gently challenged. Inside his head, neurons began firing in new ways. Connections strengthened. Circuits that were once silent started to speak. Months later, Leo read his first book. He looked up and said, "My brain feels awake." That sentence stayed with me because it showed me something essential. Learning is not about intelligence. It is about connection. Inside the brain, everything depends on communication. Neurons talk to each other using tiny electrical signals. And chemical messengers. When a pathway is used often, it becomes faster. When it is ignored, it weakens. This is why practice matters. Not because practice is discipline, but because practice is biology. Your brain changes to match what you repeat. I saw this truth again in people. Suffering from chronic pain. Some had no injury anymore. The body had healed. But the pain remained. Why? Because the brain had learned pain. Pain circuits had become strong. And automatic. The brain, trying to protect the body, kept sounding the alarm, even when there was no danger. This taught me something important. The brain can learn suffering just as easily as it learns skills. But if it can learn pain, it can also unlearn it. People who slowly learn to focus again move their bodies and change what they expected to feel, began to feel relief. not overnight, but step by step. Their brains were learning to feel safe again. Another case shocked even experienced doctors. A young man had half of his brain removed to stop uncontrollable seizures. Half. Most people believed this would destroy his future. But something incredible happened. The remaining half of his brain expanded its role. It learned to handle tasks it was never meant to do. Speech, movement, understanding. He grew up normally. Half a brain, a full life. This showed how powerful adaptation can be. Especially when the brain is young. But adults are not excluded. Plasticity slows with age, but it never disappears. As long as we are alive, the brain is learning. At this stage, I began to realize something deeply human. Hope is not just emotional. Hope is neurological. When people believe change is possible, different brain networks activate. Motivation increases. Attention sharpens. Even the immune system responds. This explains the placebo effect. It is not imagination. It is expectation, changing biology. The brain listens to belief. But plasticity also demands responsibility. Because the brain changes, whether we guide it or not. If we repeat distraction, the brain becomes scattered. If we repeat fear, fear becomes automatic. If we repeat kindness, those pathways grow stronger. Attention is training. What you focus on, you reinforce. Every habit is a circuit. Every thought leaves a trace. Someone once asked me,
If change is possible, why do people feel stuck?
I gave them an image. Imagine fresh snow. The first time you walk across it, you leave a light trail. Walk the same path, again and again. And a deep track forms. Soon, your feet fall into it automatically. That is habit. To change, you must step off the old path. At first, it feels hard. Unnatural. Slow. But each step creates a new trail. That is how the brain changes. Not through force, but through repetition. One of the most emotional moments in my career was watching a woman read again. Doctors said,
She would never read.
She had a serious brain injury from a stroke. The stroke damaged the part of her brain that understands language. Because of this damage, she developed a condition called aphasia. Aphasia means the brain has trouble using words. She could see letters, but they had no meaning. She knew what she wanted to say, but the words would not come out. The problem was not her eyes. The problem was not her mouth. The problem was the connection inside the brain. Doctors believed adult brains could not rebuild language connections. Because of this damage, she developed a condition called aphasia. So, they told her,
You will never read again.
but she did not give up. She started very slowly. She traced letters with her finger. She said the sounds of the letters, one at a time. Inside her brain, new connections began to form. Parts of the brain for seeing, touching, and hearing started working together. Her brain found a new way. Not the old way. A new path. One day, she read a sentence out loud. Her hands shook. Her eyes filled with tears. Those tears were not just emotion. They were proof. Proof that the brain can change. By this point, I no longer believed in a fixed identity. I no longer believed people were broken. I believed they were unfinished. The brain is not a closed book. It is a story still being written. Every experience edits it. Every effort revises it. I also learned humility. Plasticity is powerful. But it is not instant. Change takes time. It takes patience, attention, and repetition. But the possibility is always there. Even after trauma, even after loss, even after years of believing, this is just who I am. In the end, what moved me most was not the science. It was the courage of ordinary people. People who tried again, when they were told not to hope. People who practiced when progress was invisible. People whose brains changed because they refused to stop. What I learned from them is simple, but profound. We are not trapped by our past. We are shaped by what we practice. And as long as the brain can change, so can we. Quietly, slowly, day by day.